In the busiest supermarket in the city, a humiliating scene takes place in front of dozens of people. An arrogant customer laughs loudly at a young bagger, mocking his simple clothing and shy way of speaking. But what no one imagines is that the supermarket owner is watching everything, and what he will reveal in the end will leave everyone silent. If you believe that respect is worth more than any appearance, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because this story will prove it to you in a way you will never forget. It was an ordinary Saturday morning in Central Supermarket, the busiest in the city. The lines were long, the carts were full, and the constant noise of the cashiers mixed with hurried conversations. Among the employees, Lucas, a young 20-year-old packer, worked with the same smile as always, even facing disdainful looks from some customers. Lucas was known for being polite, but also very down-to-earth. His slightly worn clothes, old sneakers, and unkempt hair drew the attention of those who looked at him with prejudiced eyes. Yet, he never responded rudely. He treasured every bitter word he heard and continued working, believing that kindness was the right response to any humiliation. In line at checkout 4, an impatient customer in a gray suit and an expensive watch looked at his watch repeatedly. His name was Otávio, a businessman known in the city for his arrogant and explosive manner. He hated waiting, much less being served by someone who, his eyes seemed dead-end. "Get on with it, kid," he said, tossing the groceries onto the conveyor belt. "You look like you're packing in slow motion." Lucas took a deep breath and continued his work without responding. He carefully placed the products one by one, trying to maintain professionalism. "Can you make it faster?" the man insisted, raising his voice. "Or do you need me to teach you how to do your job too?" Some people in line started to look. The cashier, an employee named Rita, tried to intervene. "Sir, he is doing the best he can." "The best he can?" Otávio laughed out loud. "If that's the best he can do, he'd better look for another job." Lucas felt his face burn with embarrassment. The man's laughter echoed louder than the words. Still, he simply replied softly, "Excuse me, sir. I'll finish soon." Otávio snorted and shook his head, showing off his luxury watch exaggeratedly. "Excuse me? Is that all? You should be ashamed of yourself showing up to work like that. Look at you. You look like a beggar packing groceries." Rita glared at him. "Sir, everyone here works with dignity." But the customer just gave a cynical smile. "Dignity? This is a supermarket, not a morality class. I pay, so I demand decent service." Lucas finished packing the last of his groceries and held out the bags. "There, sir. Here are your things." Otávio grabbed the bags abruptly, but one of them ripped. A package of rice fell to the floor, spilling some of its contents. He looked at the floor, then at Lucas, and started laughing. "See? You can't even pack it properly. What a joke," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Two ladies at the back of the line muttered something indignantly. One of them shook her head. How rude. Lucas, trying to remain calm, bent down and began to gather the rice. "I'll clean it, sir. You don't need to worry." But before he could finish, a deep voice echoed behind the cashier. "Leave it to me, Lucas. I'll take care of it." Otávio turned around irritably. "Who are you now? Another useless employee?" The man approaching wasn't wearing a uniform. He wore a light blue dress shirt, a discreet watch, and a firm gaze. His posture was calm but imposing. The employees recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Alberto, the supermarket owner. "I'm in charge of this place," he replied calmly, "and I just saw everything that happened." Otávio's smile faded. He swallowed, trying to compose himself. "Ah, the owner. Great. Then you must agree that the service here is ridiculous. This kid is slow, clumsy, and—" "Be careful what you say," the owner interrupted, his tone firm but calm. "This boy you humiliated has worked here for 2 years without ever being late, without ever missing work, and without ever raising his voice to anyone. He's one of the most respected employees on the team." Otávio tried to laugh, but his voice cracked. "I was just joking." "A joke is when everyone laughs," the owner replied, crossing his arms. "And no one here found it funny." Silence fell over the room. Rita looked at Lucas, who was still crouched on the floor, trying to hold back tears. The customers around him began to whisper. Otávio's arrogance seemed to evaporate before everyone's eyes. Mr. Alberto stepped forward, staring at the man. "And just so you know, I started exactly where Lucas is today. I was a packer, and I learned early on that a person's worth isn't measured by the clothes they wear, but by the respect they show others." Otávio lowered his gaze, embarrassed. The owner's words echoed throughout the checkout area, and the silence became the loudest sound in the supermarket. After a few seconds of silence, the entire supermarket seemed trapped in that moment. The sound of cashiers, which had previously echoed through the aisles, disappeared. Even the customers in the other lines were watching the scene, curious to know how the owner would react to Otávio's arrogance. Mr. Alberto walked slowly to the counter. Without raising his voice, "Lucas, go get a glass of water and breathe a little," he said gently. "I'll take care of this now." Lucas hesitated. "But sir, Go," the owner repeated with a slight smile. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any answer. Lucas nodded and walked away, his heart racing. Meanwhile, Otávio tried to find a way to regain control of the situation. "Look, I didn't mean to offend," he began, forcing a nervous laugh. "I just thought the service was slow. I'm a busy man, you know." Mr. Alberto crossed his arms. "I understand perfectly. What I don't understand is why you think your time is worth more than the respect of others." The answer made the atmosphere even more tense. A woman who had been watching, holding a baby stroller, commented in a low voice. Finally, someone said what everyone wanted to say. Otávio cleared his throat and tried to defend himself. "I'm just saying that. People should try harder. This kid seems lost." Mr. Alberto took a step closer and looked him straight in the eye. "Do you think you know his story because of the clothes he wears?" Otávio looked away. That kid," the owner interrupted, "works here to pay for his studies. His mother is sick and he splits his salary between household bills and medicine. He's never complained, never asked for a raise, never been late. And he still finds time to study at night." The businessman fell silent. The weight of those words hit him hard. He realized he had judged a young worker solely by his appearance, something he had always said he hated when he had been the target of prejudice in the past. Mr. Alberto continued, now in a calmer tone. "And you know what's funny? When he started here, it was precisely the kind of client who motivated him to keep going. Someone who treated him badly and made him promise that one day he would prove himself, not with anger, but with effort." Rita, the cashier, looked at her boss with emotion. Some customers began to clap, discreetly in support. Otávio, feeling his face burn, tried to change the subject. "Look, I really didn't know. Maybe I exaggerated." "Yes, you exaggerated," the owner replied firmly. "And the worst part is, you didn't need to. A real man is measured by the respect he shows, not by the car he drives or the price of the watch he wears." The customer lowered his head, holding the torn bags. I'm sorry." Mr. Alberto took a deep breath. "Apologize to the right man." Otávio turned, looking for Lucas. The young man watched from a distance, still not understanding what was happening. He approached slowly. "Lucas, I was an idiot," Otávio said, his voice lower than before. "I said something I shouldn't have. You were just doing your job." Lucas hesitated but replied, "It's okay, sir. I'm already used to it." "No, it's not okay," the owner interrupted. "No one should get used to being humiliated." Those words seemed to resonate with everyone there. The supermarket, which had previously been just a place for hurried shopping, now became a room for collective reflection. Otávio took a deep breath. "I promise this won't happen again." "I hope not," said Mr. Alberto. "Because next time maybe you'll find another packer who also owns something much bigger than you imagine." Otávio looked confused, not understanding. The owner smiled slightly. "Lucas isn't just my employee. He's my godson. His mother worked with me when this supermarket was still small. She helped me build this place. When no one believed in me, and when she got sick, I promised I'd take care of him like a son." A murmur of surprise ran through the room. Lucas's eyes widened. He hadn't known Alberto had revealed that personal detail in front of everyone. The businessman, now visibly remorseful, extended his hand. I really didn't know. I'm sorry, really. Lucas hesitated, then squeezed his hand. It's okay, sir. Sometimes life teaches us the hard way. Mr. Alberto placed his hand on the young man's shoulder and smiled. And that's why he's going far. Otávio simply nodded, embarrassed. As he left, people's gazes followed him, no longer with contempt, but with thoughtful lessons. After the incident, the atmosphere in the supermarket was still tense. People returned to their shopping, but from time to time glances met and whispered comments still circulated through the aisles. The episode had left its mark, not only on Lucas but on everyone who witnessed the scene. In the storage room, Lucas washed Gio, his face in the metal sink, trying to dispel the lump in his throat. He wasn't crying, not anymore, but the humiliation still echoed inside him, the kind of wound that takes days to heal. Rita appeared in the doorway, holding a glass of water. Hey, is everything okay? She asked softly. He took a deep breath before answering. Yes, I am. I've been through worse. It hurts to know that there are still people who look at you as if you're worth less. She nodded. What he did was horrible, but everyone saw that he got off with dignity. The owner defended you, and that means a lot. Lucas forced a smile. Mr. Alberto is an incredible person. I owe a lot to him and to my mother. Rita watched him for a moment. Your mother is still undergoing treatment, right? Okay. The cancer gave me a break, but the medicine is expensive. That's why I try to work overtime whenever I can. Rita sighed. You deserve more recognition, you know that? Lucas chuckled softly. Recognition comes in its own time. For now, what I want is to continue helping her recover. Meanwhile, in the parking lot, Otávio was still standing inside his car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The owner's words wouldn't leave his head. A real man is measured by the respect he shows. He realized that because of his ego, he had become exactly the kind of person he despised. He picked up his cell phone and stared at the company's number. For a moment he considered calling and apologizing, but decided against it. Apologies, he knew, needed to come from actions, not empty words. In the following days, routine returned to normal. Lucas was still smiling at every customer, packing with the same care as always. Some of those who witnessed the scene made a point of greeting him kindly, as if they wanted to somehow make up for what they'd seen. Mr. Alberto watched from a distance, proudly. For him, that episode had demonstrated two things: Lucas's unshakable character and how respect is a lesson that needs to be remembered every day. One morning, the owner called Lucas into his office. Close the door and sit here with me, son. Lucas sat down, somewhat confused. You've been doing a great job, as always. But after what happened, I realized it was time to give you another chance. What do you mean, sir? Mr. Alberto opened a folder and showed his badge. Customer Service Supervisor. Lucas's eyes widened. Me? Yes. It's time for you to step up a notch, not just because of what happened, but because of the professional you are. The young man was speechless. I don't know what to say. Just say thank you, the owner replied with a smile, and continue to be that example. That afternoon, as he pinned his new badge to his chest, Lucas felt something different. Not pride, but peace. The feeling that his efforts were finally being recognized, not by status, but by merit. But fate had not yet completely closed that cycle. A few days later, Otávio returned to the supermarket. He looked different, without the fancy suit, in simple clothes and a more humble appearance. He looked for Lucas in the cleaning aisle and waited for the right moment to approach. Lucas, he said calmly, I wanted to thank you for not reacting that day. If it had been anyone else in your place, they would have answered me. Lucas stared at him, surprised. I just didn't want to make the situation worse. Otávio nodded. And yet it taught me a lesson. Since that day, I've been thinking a lot. I grew up believing that money made me better, but I realized it took me away from who I was. Lucas kept his gaze steady. Everyone has a chance to change, sir. What matters is what we do after we make a mistake. Otávio smiled sincerely. That's what I'm trying to do. If you don't mind, I'd like to help. Help? What do you mean? I heard about your mother. I have a clinic that provides cancer treatment. If you'd like, I can cover part of the expenses. Lucas fell silent. It was hard to believe what he was hearing. For a moment, the young man thought it was too much pride to accept. But then he remembered his owner's words. Silence speaks louder than any answer. He took a deep breath and replied, I accept, but not out of pity, but because I see sincerity in what you said. Otávio extended his hand. Honestness is the least I can offer. The two shook hands, sealing a new beginning, not of friendship, but of respect. As he watched the scene from afar, Mr. Alberto smiled discreetly. He knew that sometimes life teaches us the lessons we most need to learn, in the simplest way possible. In the following days, the relationship between Lucas and Otávio changed completely. They didn't become friends, but there was something new between them, respect and recognition. The businessman now made a point of greeting the young man every time he went to the supermarket, and over time, he began to talk to him naturally, without arrogance, without a mask. Lucas, for his part, maintained the same humility. Even after being promoted to supervisor, he continued to help his colleagues with packing, carrying boxes, and even mopping the floor when necessary. Position doesn't change character, he used to say, and all the employees admired this. One afternoon, Mr. Alberto called Otávio into his office to talk. I'm glad you're back, he said, pouring coffee. Not everyone has the courage to face their own mistakes. Otávio nodded. The truth is, that day made me think about everything I'd become. I spent so much time thinking I was better than everyone else that I forgot to be a person. The owner observed him calmly. Sometimes it takes an uncomfortable mirror for us to see what we don't want to see. And that was exactly it, Otávio replied. Seeing that boy, being humiliated by me and yet responding politely, that broke me inside. Mr. Alberto smiled slightly. He reminds me a lot of when I started out. I was a packer too, and I was humiliated. More times than I can count, but I learned something important. The world always turns, and when it does, those who sow respect reap peace. Otávio lowered his gaze. I wish I could go back in time, but what I can do now is try to make up for it. I want to truly help Lucas and his mother, not just with treatment, but with opportunities. Then do it right, the owner replied. Not out of guilt, but out of gratitude. Life has given you a second chance to be a better person. Meanwhile, Lucas arrived home, tired, but with a sparkle in his eyes. His mother, Dona Helena, was sitting on the sofa, reading. The scarf on her head hid her thinning hair, but it didn't erase her serene smile. How was work, my son? She asked. Different, Mom, he replied, sitting beside her. I think I'm learning that even bad things can have a purpose. Helena looked at him curiously. Are you talking about the man who humiliated you? Lucas nodded. He came back, he apologized, and now he's helping with your treatment. She was surprised. Really? And you trusted me? Not at first, the son admitted, but I saw sincerity in his eyes. Sometimes people just need a little push to wake up. Dona Helena held her son's hand. Good things come back, Lucas. They always come back. It may take a while. It may come from where we least expect it, but they come back. The next morning, a team of volunteers arrived at the supermarket. Otávio had organized a social action in partnership with Mr. Alberto. They would donate food baskets to needy families and hold lectures on dignity at work. Lucas would be one of the speakers. When he found out, he got nervous. Me? Public speaking? Mr. Alberto smiled. Who better than you to tell what you experienced? Your story can open the eyes of many people. On the day of the event, dozens of employees and customers gathered in the market hall. Local cameras and reporters recorded the moment. Lucas stepped onto the small stage, the microphone trembling in his hands. He looked out at the audience and saw attentive faces, including Otávio's, seated in the front row, watching with genuine respect. I never imagined I'd be here, he began. I always thought my life was too small to inspire anyone. But I've learned that the size of our story doesn't matter. What matters is what we do with it. He paused, taking a deep breath. I was just a packer, and I was humiliated in front of everyone. It hurt me. But what impacted me most wasn't the humiliation, but what came after: repentance, forgiveness, and change. Today I understand that respecting others is the least we can do to be truly human. The audience applauded. Many were moved. Mr. Alberto smiled proudly, and Otávio discreetly wiped away a tear. When the event ended, a woman approached Lucas. Son, I work as a cleaner at another supermarket. I hear jokes every day. But after listening to you, I promise I won't give up. Lucas was moved. Never give up. One day they'll look at you with the respect you've always deserved. That night was special. More than an event, it was the closing of a cycle. A packer who had been humiliated turned pain into inspiration, and even the one who made him suffer came away more human. Mr. Alberto looked at the illuminated supermarket sign and said softly, "That's why it's worth believing in people." The donation drive had ended, but the positive impact continued to spread. Lucas and Otávio's story became a citywide conversation, and, to their surprise, inspired other businesses to do the same. Local news reports portrayed the supermarket as an example of respect and resilience. The article featured a photo of Lucas smiling alongside his mother, and another of Mr. Alberto and Otávio shaking hands. The headline read, "From humiliation to transformation, how a gesture of respect changed an entire city." The next morning, when Lucas arrived for work, he found a small line of people waiting for him at the door. They were customers who wanted to congratulate him personally. An elderly woman approached, holding a note. "I came here just to say thank you, my son. The world needs people like you." Lucas awkwardly thanked her. "I just did what I thought was right, ma'am." "Keep it up," she said, smiling, "because those who sow respect reap admiration." As the weeks passed, Lucas gradually adapted to his new role. Supervision wasn't easy. It involved resolving conflicts, dealing with complaints, and keeping the team united. But he did it with empathy. Every scolding was accompanied by advice, and every compliment a sincere smile. One day during lunch, Mr. Alberto sat with him in the kitchen. "You know, son, I learned something from watching you work. When I was younger, I thought being a boss required toughness. But you showed me that firmness and kindness can go hand in hand." Lucas smiled. "And you taught me that humility isn't about diminishing yourself. It's about continuing to be yourself when life puts you at the top." Meanwhile, Otávio was also changing. His company began implementing new social projects, offering scholarships and internships to low-income youth. In every lecture he gave, he told the story of the day he humiliated a packer and ended up learning life's most valuable lesson. One afternoon, he returned to the supermarket with a surprise. He found Mr. Alberto and Lucas near the checkout and called them over. "I wanted to show you something," he said, taking a folder out of his backpack. Inside it were documents and a formal proposal, a partnership program between the supermarket and your company, aimed at training young people in vulnerable situations for the job market. Mr. Alberto read it carefully, impressed. "Is this really serious?" "Very much," Otávio replied. "I want this partnership to be named after your mother, Lucas, Project Helena, in honor of the strength of someone who never let her son give up." Lucas was speechless. I don't even know how to thank you." Otávio smiled. "No need. The thanks are mine. You made me look at life with different eyes." Mr. Alberto nodded. "Then it's decided. The project starts here, and you, Lucas, will coordinate everything." Lucas looked in disbelief. "Me? Coordinate?" "Yes," the owner confirmed. "Who better to teach us about respect and overcoming obstacles than someone who's experienced it firsthand?" In the following months, the Helena project gained momentum. Young people began participating in workshops and courses. Lucas gave lectures on dignity at work, and Otávio sponsored scholarships for the most dedicated participants. The supermarket became a benchmark for social responsibility. And more than that, the place that was once the scene of humiliation has become a symbol of transformation. One day, while tidying up the hall after an event, Lucas found his old packing uniform tucked away in a box. He picked up the wrinkled blue shirt and stared at it for a few minutes. It was the same uniform from the day it all began. Mr. Alberto approached. "Do you still have this?" Lucas smiled. "I can't throw it away. It was with him that I learned to be proud of who I am." The owner placed his hand on his shoulder. "Never forget where you came from, but never let the past hold you back either. It exists to remind you how far you can go." Lucas looked around the room full of young people from the project. Some were taking photos, others were laughing, and a small group was listening intently to a lecture on empathy. "I think I understand now what Mom always meant when she said that good things come back," he said. "Because in the end, life gives back exactly what we give." Mr. Alberto nodded. "And sometimes, she pays it back with interest." The two laughed together. Outside, the supermarket sign shone in the afternoon sun, now with a new banner hanging. "Here, all work is dignified. Every person deserves respect." That simple phrase summed up not only Luke's story, but that of all who were once judged unfairly and found redemption in kindness. The Helena project expanded rapidly. What began as a local initiative gained national attention. Regional TV channels and news portals told the story of a supermarket that transformed a humiliation into a movement of empathy and opportunity. Lucas, shy at first, now spoke confidently before packed audiences. His voice carried the experience of someone who had experienced prejudice and overcome it without losing his kindness. One morning, Mr. Alberto received an important call. It was from a national supermarket chain that wanted to implement Project Helena in its branches. He hung up the phone with a smile and went straight to Lucas. "Get ready, boy," he said excitedly. "It looks like your story is going to cross borders." Lucas's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "They want to meet you. They want to hear from you how it all started." The owner placed his hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready to represent what we believe in?" Lucas laughed nervously. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I know I'll try." Days later, Lucas embarked on his first plane trip. Otávio insisted on accompanying him, as did Mr. Alberto. It was a milestone for everyone. At the event, held in a huge auditorium, he took the stage before hundreds of managers and employees from other companies. When he took the microphone, he took a deep breath and began. "I never thought I'd be here one day." He paused and looked out at the audience. "A while ago, I was just the bagger most people didn't even notice, and one day, I was humiliated by a customer. In that moment, I felt small, but instead of reacting with anger, I learned to react with respect. And that's what changed everything." The auditorium fell silent. Even the most skeptical were paying attention. "Life is curious," he continued. "Sometimes it knocks you down just to teach you how beautiful it is to get back up. And when you choose to get back up without stepping on anyone, that's where true success begins." When the speech ended, the audience rose to applause. Mr. Alberto watched with teary eyes, and Otávio, moved, seemed to have found a kind of inner peace he hadn't felt in years. After the event, journalists surrounded Lucas. They wanted interviews, photos, and testimonials, but he maintained his usual straightforward tone. "I just want people to learn to respect each other. The rest is a consequence." Back in town, the supermarket became a local tourist attraction. People took photos with the Helena Project sign and left thank you notes. Some young people who participated in the project found formal jobs, and others decided to study further to change their lives. One night, Lucas was leaving work when he saw a boy sitting on the curb wearing a dirty uniform and a sad expression. He approached and asked, "How are you, kid?" "I don't think so," the boy replied. "I was fired today. They said I'm not cut out to work with people." Lucas sat down next to him. "Tell me something. Do you believe this?" "I don't know," the boy said, almost crying. "I just wanted a chance." "Then I'll give you one," Lucas said. "Come here tomorrow. We always need people who are willing to learn." The boy looked up, surprised. "Really?" "Seriously, but there's one condition. Never let anyone convince you that you're worth less." The boy smiled for the first time. As Lucas watched him leave, he remembered himself years before, shy, afraid, but full of hope. and he realized that perhaps this was the true meaning of what he was doing, using the pain of a bad day to prevent others from going through the same. That night he returned home and told his mother about the boy. Donna Helena, now recovered and healthy, listened with tears in her eyes. "I told you, my son, good always comes back. And it comes back multiplied," he replied, smiling. Outside, the wind shook the supermarket sign. The lights reflected the phrase written in large letters: "Respect is the first step to transforming the world." The boy Lucas helped on the curb was called Caio. He was only 17 years old and had lived a life marked by rejection. When he showed up at the supermarket the next day, he wore the same simple outfit and had a look of distrust, like someone who didn't believe anyone would actually give him a chance. Lucas greeted him at the door. "I keep my promise. Today you'll start learning the basics." Caio smiled shyly. "Thank you, really. No one has ever trusted me like that." "Then you'll start getting used to it," Lucas replied. "Here, we believe in people." During the first few days, Caio was dedicated but insecure. He dropped products and forgot processes, but he never missed a show. And unlike many others, he apologized and tried to improve. Lucas saw in him the same spark he had when he started, a mix of fear and a desire to prove himself. Mr. Alberto watched from a distance and once commented to Lucas, "This boy reminds me of you." Lucas laughed. "Then he'll, give you work and pride in equal measure." Time passed, and the supermarket looked different. It wasn't just a place to shop. It was a learning environment and empathy. The employees treated each other like family, and even the customers noticed the difference. Many said they felt better shopping there because they knew each packaged product carried a story of overcoming adversity. One afternoon, while checking inventory, Lucas overheard a discussion at the checkout counter. It was an angry customer complaining that the bagger had dropped a bag. When he approached, he saw it was Caio, angrily trying to explain himself. "I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident," said the boy. The customer, a middle-aged man with a deep voice, shouted, "Excuse me? You think this makes up for the damage? Learn how to work before you come here." Lucas arrived quickly. "What's going on here?" "That incompetent brat dropped my groceries," the man replied. Lucas looked at Caio and then at the customer. "I understand your anger, sir, but no one here is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning and respect." The customer snorted. "Respect? This kind of employee is what keeps the country from moving forward." Lucas took a deep breath, feeling the echo of the words he himself had heard years ago. "You may be angry, but you have no right to humiliate anyone. If you want to complain, complain to me. I'm the one responsible." The man hesitated. Lucas's calm, firm tone disarmed him. After a few seconds, he picked up the bags and left without another word. Caio, still trembling, looked at his mentor. "I thought I was going to be fired." "Fired?" Lucas smiled. "You just had your first practical lesson. Making mistakes is normal. The important thing is not to let them define you." Mr. Alberto, who had watched the scene from afar, approached proudly. "I knew you would do the right thing, Lucas." "I only did what you would have done," the young man replied. "The respect you taught me, I now pass on." In the following days, the incident became an internal example. Caio gained more confidence and began helping other newcomers, repeating the same encouraging phrases he'd heard from Lucas. The cycle of empathy continued, simple, silent, and powerful. A few months later, a film crew showed up at the supermarket. It was a national broadcaster making a documentary about the Helena project. They interviewed Lucas, Mr. Alberto, Otávio, and even some customers. During the recording, the reporter asked, "What did you learn from all this, Lucas?" He thought for a moment and replied, "That respect is contagious. When one person practices it, another learns. And when someone is humiliated but responds with kindness, it creates a current that the whole world feels, even if silently." The response went viral. The excerpt circulated on social media, generating millions of views. People across the country began sharing similar stories, marking the supermarket as a symbol of humanity in these harsh times. Otávio, upon seeing the video, called Lucas. "Do you realize what you're doing?" "I'm just trying to give back what I received," he replied. "No, Lucas, you're changing the way people treat each other." The phrase stuck with the young man for days. He had never sought fame, but now he understood that true impact didn't come from visibility. It came from coherence between what is said and what is done. That night, Lucas wrote in a notebook he had kept since he was a teenager. "One day someone humiliated me to make me feel smaller. Today I help people rise up. Life has a curious way of giving back what you give, and sometimes it gives back double." The success of Project Helena grew every month. The supermarket, once a simple commercial outlet, became a national reference for empathy and social responsibility. Other companies began visiting the site to understand how such a simple gesture had become such a powerful movement. But amidst all the recognition and applause, Lucas remained the same. He arrived early, chatted with employees, helped at the registers, and made sure every person there felt valued. He knew that no title could replace humility, and that the greatest role anyone can play is to be a role model. One rainy morning, while organizing project reports, Lucas received an unexpected message on his cell phone. It was from Otávio. "Lucas, I need to see you. It's important." Without hesitation, he went to the businessman's office. When he arrived, he found Otávio sitting behind his desk. His expression changed. Not the cold look of before, but a mix of concern and thoughtfulness. "Is everything okay?" asked Lucas. Otávio took a deep breath. "Not exactly. I discovered that my company is facing a financial crisis. I made some bad investments and I might have to sell part of it." Lucas was silent for a moment. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't call you to lament," Otávio said with a slight smile. "I called you because I wanted to thank you before everything changes. That lesson I learned from you was the greatest investment of my life. And even if I lose everything, I gained something no amount of money can buy. Peace." Lucas nodded. "Life always finds a way to balance things. Sometimes we lose what's material to understand what's essential." Otávio stared at him. "You speak like someone who's lived 1,000 lives, boy." "Maybe because I learned by watching people make mistakes and get back up," he replied. That same week, Mr. Alberto invited all employees to a special meeting. The room was filled with over 50 people, including former Helena Project participants and even local journalists. In the center was a simple stage with a microphone and a banner bearing the slogan, "Respect transforms work. Work transforms the world." Lucas was called to speak. He stepped onto the stage and looked out at the audience, recognizing several faces that had shaped his journey. Rita, the cashier who had defended him. Caio, the boy who was now an instructor for the new Packers, and even Otávio, sitting discreetly in the back row. "When I started here, I thought bagging groceries was the simplest job in the world," he began. "But I've learned that every gesture carries value. Every word can hurt or heal, and every person, even the most invisible, has something important to teach." He paused, taking a deep breath. "One day, I was humiliated right here, in front of clients and colleagues. It could have destroyed me, but it made me stronger. Because that day, someone chose to stand up for me instead of keeping quiet. And that choice changed everything." Mr. Alberto watched, moved. "Today, I understand that respect isn't just an attitude. It's a seed. And when you plant one, it grows in places you never imagined." The audience gave a standing ovation. Some wept quietly. Otávio stood up, walked to the stage, and took the microphone. "Can I say something?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I was the man who humiliated Lucas that day, and for a long time I carried the shame of that. But today, looking at him and everything that was built from that mistake, I can only be grateful, because he didn't return my anger. He returned my humanity." The hall fell into absolute silence. Lucas smiled and replied, "And that's what the world needs, sir. More humanity." The two embraced to long emotional applause. It was the closing of a cycle, the moment when the wound became a scar, and the scar became inspiration. That day, the entire supermarket vibrated in a unique way. Every employee felt they were part of something bigger than their job. They were participating in a real change, built on empathy and respect. Later, when everyone had left, Mr. Alberto approached Lucas. "I think I finally understand the purpose of all this." "Which one, sir?" asked the young man. "Show that greatness is not in those who give orders, but in those who inspire." Lucas smiled. "And sometimes the one who inspires is the one who was once ignored." Mr. Alberto laughed, nodding. "Life has a beautiful sense of irony, don't you think?" "Beautiful and fair," he replied. "Because in the end, good always comes back." As the months went by, the Helena Project established itself as one of the largest inclusion and empathy programs in the country. Schools, NGOs, and even universities began inviting Lucas to speak about his journey. The story of the packer who was humiliated and turned pain into inspiration now served as an example for thousands of young people. Despite all the hype, Lucas didn't let fame get the better of him. He continued to live simply, living with his mother and taking the bus to work every day. For him, nothing had changed in essence, only the reach of his message. "The respect is the same, only the number of people who listen to him has grown," he said with a discreet smile. One afternoon, a local school invited him to speak with the students. It was a humble institution, where many young people came from underprivileged backgrounds. Upon entering the auditorium, Lucas found himself surrounded by curious and expectant eyes. "I'm not famous nor special," he began. "I just had a bad day and decided not to let it make me a bad person too." The simple words captured everyone's attention. One of the students raised his hand and asked, "But how did you manage not to feel angry at that man?" Lucas thought before answering. "Yes, I did. A lot of anger. But I understood that if I responded with hatred, I would only multiply what he did. When someone casts darkness on you, the only way to overcome it is by shining a light." The silence that followed was more powerful than any applause. After the talk, a girl approached with tears in her eyes. "I work as a cashier at a small grocery store, and I'm constantly mistreated. But after I hear you, I won't cry in secret anymore. I'll keep my head held high." Lucas smiled. "Do that, and never forget. Those who disrespect you show you what they are, not what you're worth." As he drove home that day, he realized the mission was no longer just his. The project had become a spontaneous movement, passing from person to person, a cycle of kindness that seemed to grow on its own. That same week, Mr. Alberto called him in for a serious talk. "Lucas, I've been thinking a lot. I'm getting older, and I want to start stepping away from the supermarket operations." "Are you going to retire?" the young man asked, surprised. "Not yet," the owner replied with a smile. "But I want to prepare someone to take my place." Lucas's eyes widened. "Are you talking about me?" "I am." Mr. Alberto placed his hand on her shoulder. "You have everything this place needs: humility, vision, and heart." Lucas was silent for a few seconds, trying to absorb what he had heard. "I don't know if I'm ready for this." "No one ever is," the owner replied. "But the secret is simple. If you put people before profit, it will work." The following days were a time of transition. Lucas began participating in meetings, understanding processes, and leading important decisions. The young packer was now on the verge of becoming supermarket partner, the same place where, years before, he had been humiliated in front of everyone. The news spread throughout the city and moved those who followed his journey. In an interview, he was asked how he felt about reaching this far. "Gratitude," he replied. "Gratitude for every person who believed in me, and even for those who doubted me, because they were the ones who gave me reasons to keep going." Meanwhile, Otávio, now rebuilding his company, had also completely transformed himself. He implemented internal policies of respect, increased employee benefits, and began hiring young people from the Helena Project. At a joint event between the two companies, he took the stage alongside Lucas and said, "One day, I humiliated this man here. Today, he is my business partner and, above all, a friend." The audience gave a standing ovation. Lucas hugged him and replied simply, Sometimes life brings together people who once hurt each other, just to prove that forgiveness is stronger than pride. The audience was moved. Mr. Alberto, sitting in the front row, wiped away a small tear. For him, that moment symbolized everything he had believed throughout his life. That honest work and mutual respect can transform any story. Late in the evening, Lucas looked up at the supermarket's illuminated sign. Now, with a new golden plaque affixed to the facade, Helena and Lucas Supermarket, where every person matters. The reflection of those words in the windows seemed to sum up years of struggle, learning, and compassion. The boy who had once been a source of laughter was now a symbol of hope. Months had passed since the event where the supermarket was renamed. The movement continued to grow, but now it was no longer just a project. It was a philosophy of life. In several cities, companies, schools, and institutions used Lucas's example as a model of empathy, humility, and respect in the workplace. Lucas, now a partner and senior manager, maintained the same simple habits. He arrived before everyone else, greeted each employee by name, and made a point of listening to their stories. He knew that each person carried an invisible struggle, and therefore deserved kindness before any judgment. One Saturday afternoon, while I was reviewing documents in the office, a new employee knocked on the door. She was a shy young woman named Jessica, which had started a few days ago. "Mr. Lucas, can I speak for a minute?" "Sure, come in," he replied, smiling. She hesitated. "I wanted to thank you. I've never worked in a place where people look you in the eye and treat you like a person." Lucas rested his chin on his hand and replied calmly, "That's always been the goal here. People don't have to be great to deserve respect, Jessica. They just have to be human." The girl smiled excitedly. "I hope one day I can do the same for others." "And it will," he said. "That's how good things continue." Shortly thereafter, Mr. Alberto officially decided to retire. The announcement was made during a simple ceremony in the supermarket courtyard. "When I founded this place," he said into the microphone, "I dreamed of creating something that would support families. But today I see that we have created something greater, a home of dignity." He looked at Lucas, moved. "And I know I leave this legacy in good hands." Lucas hugged him tightly, feeling that in that gesture there was more than a farewell. There was gratitude and continuity. Otávio was also there, his expression serene. After the ceremony, he approached Lucas and said, "You know what's most curious? That humiliation that happened here one day became the beginning of everything." Lucas nodded. "Life has a funny way of using even the most painful things to teach you what matters. And bringing together unlikely people," Otávio added. "Who would have thought that one day I'd be here rooting for you?" Lucas laughed. Sometimes pain is the starting point for change. The sun was beginning to set, reflecting off the supermarket windows. Employees, customers, and families gathered in front of the building, taking photos and celebrating. The whole city seemed to breathe a different air, one of respect, learning, and hope. Lucas watched it all in silence. He felt the gentle breeze and remembered every step that had brought him there. Otávio's laughter, Mr. Alberto's firm gaze, Rita's support, his mother's example, and the day he decided not to respond with hatred, even when hurt. He looked at the glowing sign, took a deep breath, and thought to himself, if everyone made a small gesture of respect, the world would be different. Donna Helena, now fully recovered, appeared at his side. "I'm proud of you, my son," she said, smiling. "I always knew your heart would take you far." Lucas replied with tears in his eyes, "I just followed what you taught me. Never let pain turn me into someone worse." She hugged him, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Around them, lights, laughter, and voices echoed. But what truly mattered was that embrace, the symbol of a journey that began with humiliation and ended with humanity. Lucas stepped onto the small makeshift stage, looked at everyone, and said, "I'm no different from anyone else here. I've only learned one thing that life taught me the hard way. Respect changes everything. It heals wounds, brings people together, and transforms stories. And when we choose to respect, the world chooses to reciprocate." People gave him a standing ovation. Some cried, Others just smiled silently. And in that moment, the entire supermarket was filled with something you can't buy: shared dignity. A person's true value is not in the position they hold, but in the respect they offer. The way we treat others reveals who we really are, because in the end, life always gives back, in the same measure, everything we give.